It's my last day with this lens, and to be honest, I've had this lens for the greater part of 2+ years, and it might be one I regret selling. Probably not, because I really don't use it that often. Basically, what we're going to get into today is the general qualities of this lens, why I unfortunately have to sell it. We're going to examine some image quality so you guys can know what to expect, and then we're going to go on a photo session, take some pictures, and just have fun, say my goodbyes or whatever. I'm romanticizing it a little bit, but let's go ahead and get into it. This is the XF 18mm f2, and you've probably seen and heard me talk about this lens before. It's a great lens, it's underrated. It doesn't get a lot of credit just because it's not as sharp as some of the other Fujifilm lenses, and it's not as fast or good at autofocus, but really, what can you expect? It's one of Fujifilm's oldest lenses, and it's been around for almost 11 years now, I think it is, which is kind of crazy, but it's still a really good lens. I think technology has had this kind of creep in the past where it makes it so we can use a lot older lenses and not really even care about the image quality because they work and they do their job quite well. There are several different aspects as to why I like this lens so much and that I might be sad about letting it go, and none of it really have to do with the focal length itself. Unfortunately, as you guys may or may not know, the 18mm or 28mm equivalent is not my favorite focal length at all. I generally prefer the 35 equivalent, that's why I use the X100V all the time, and this one is just a little bit too wide. Strangely enough, I don't seem to have a problem with the 60mm or extra wide angles. It's just 18mm is kind of this weird spot for me, at least for my photography. It looks a little too iPhone-y for me, which I think a lot of people like, but it's just not my cup of tea. And that's why this lens has not been getting that much use over the years. I quite frankly just rather reach for or grab a different lens instead of this one. A few things I do really like about this lens, however, are the square lens hood. I think it looks really nice, and the shape and the size and the weight of this lens. It's a really light lens, it's a really small pancake lens, and I weighed it the other day and it clocked in at about 150 grams with the bottom cap thing on, which is actually really impressive because I barely feel it on my camera bodies at all. And so ironically, the things I like about this lens have nothing to do with the actual lens itself, it's just the design and the aesthetic of this lens. But photographers in general, I feel like we are all kind of guilty of that. We end up buying a bunch of different lenses. We selectively use a few ones in particular to do 80% of our work, and then there's just a bunch of lenses that just end up collecting dust that we don't ever use. It's just a common trope, and I figure if I could just sell it, I could use that money to buy a lens I actually use or put it towards something else, like, I don't know, food. If anything, the qualities I miss will be more about the looks of this lens and the feel of this lens, moreover than actually using the lens. It's not a good enough reason to keep a lens just by the way it looks. So let's go ahead and move on to print. Alright, so this is a photo I took maybe 2 years ago, which is a testament to how little I actually use this lens. The reason why I chose this picture to print out was because there's a lot of layers, so you can really examine and test and really look at the different gradients of the image. And I printed this in black and white just because I think the X Pro 1's black and white images are really, really good. And there might be a little bit of a purple fringe or color cast along. That's just the video from the camera, so kind of ignore that. This is supposed to be all black and white. What I really like about this image is how there's multiple components. There's the sky, there's the sand, there's people, but they're all kind of like perfectly spaced out. This just goes to show what kind of image quality you can get from the 18mm. I think the print itself came out really fantastic. I printed this on matte paper. Typically, I would like to print on luster paper, but unfortunately, I don't have any luster paper right now. I had to order some recently and it's not here yet. So I'm showing you guys the image quality on matte paper. And it actually came out pretty decently sharp. Usually with matte paper, the images are a little bit softer, just how matte tends to render images. You always want to kind of cross-examine on print. I think that's the best way to evaluate quality of your camera and lens, because then you can really get into the nitty-gritty of the image. Look, break it down, and examine it for different types of stuff. And I, to be honest, would not notice the difference between the quality of the 18mm and if I took it with a different type of lens or camera. Good enough for print, you're chilling. Let's go ahead and go take some pictures. I'm gonna narrate a little bit over some parts of the video, particularly because the audio wasn't so great and it was kind of windy outside.
Really like black and white on the X Pro. Nice stuff. Dang, it's so wide. You see what I mean?
Basically, all I'm really doing is I'm taking images of different stuff. Like, I don't even know, to be honest, just whatever I see, just trees, plants, planes, buildings, skies, gradients, and just really trying to get a feel for this lens again.
Okay.
In some of the shots over here, I'm kind of switching in between black and white and color images because although I shoot a lot in black and white with the X Pro 1, I've been kind of moving over to experimenting at least some of the other film simulations like Pro Negative High and Pro Negative Standard, so I'm just kind of really having fun with it.
Yeah, it's nice out. I really might miss this lens. Psych. Huh, scale is actually pretty nice.
So just a few closing thoughts before I pack up and ship this lens off. That kind of last photo session was just for me to say goodbye to the lens and not really feel bad about selling it. And I think it was a good photo session. We didn't get anything good in particular, mainly because the spot I went to, it's better for more telephoto type lenses. So if you're doing 55 millimeters or 50 millimeters and up, I think that's where that spot really shines. I think this lens would have performed much better if I took it out on a street photo session, but that's okay. I think that was a good closure photo session, which is kind of weird to even have for a lens, but whatever. The ironic thing about that photo session is that some of the better images that I got in that time were actually taken with the 18 to 55. I hope I don't regret selling it later. I hope it's not one of those things where it just comes back and I'm just like, man, I wish I still had the 18 millimeter. I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, for anyone who's considering buying this lens or looking into this lens, it's still a great lens. I think Fujifilm may or may not update it soon. They already just released the 18mm f1.4, so who knows if the f2 is going to get a second version. It's really outdated though, so that would be really cool if it does. If you're looking for a type of lens that can go into your camera that's not too serious, or you don't care that much about pixel peeping, image sharpness, image quality, you just want something on the cheaper, lighter side that looks nice on your cameras, then you really can't go wrong with this lens. The images that you create are more important than the type of cameras you use or anything. So it's all about how you use the lens rather than the lens itself. And if it fits your quota, it fits your needs, it fits your budget, then by all means go for it. I think it's still a really good lens. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Please like, subscribe to this channel if you're interested in seeing more photo related stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Peace.